Rain lashed against the cracked window panes as Amara Johnson stood outside the mansion's gate, clutching her two crying children. Her heart pounded as the heavy iron doors slammed shut in her face. Behind those gates stood the very family she once called her own, her in-laws, her husband's mother and sisters, the same people who had just thrown her out like she was nothing. "Don't you ever step foot in this house again," yelled Mrs. Evelyn Johnson, her voice dripping with venom. "You and your children are no longer part of this family. You brought shame to my son, and we want nothing to do with you." Amara's trembling lips parted. "Please, just let me take their clothes, their school books." "Get off my property before I call the police," Evelyn barked. The rain poured harder, plastering Amara's clothes to her body. Her 5-year-old son, Junior, whimpered as he clung to her soaked wrapper. Beside him, her 8-year-old daughter, Nina, sobbed uncontrollably, her braids dripping water. Inside the mansion, Amara's husband, Marcus Johnson, stood silently by the window, watching his wife and children being thrown out. His jaw tightened, but he didn't move, not even when his wife screamed his name. Not even when his son shouted, "Daddy, please!" He just turned away, into the arms of Claudia, the new woman in his life, his rich, glamorous boss. The same woman who promised him a better life if he left his broke wife and her baggage. That night, Amara and her children slept under an abandoned bus stop. The wind howled, thunder cracked, and Amara, wrapped around her kids, whispered prayers through her tears. She had nothing left, no home, no husband, no dignity. But 7 days later, the world would know her name. The same family that threw her into the street would crawl at her feet, begging for mercy. Because in just 1 week, the woman they called useless would win $600 million, and she would never be the same again. The story of how it all happened began 1 month earlier, when everything still seemed normal. Amara Johnson was a 32-year-old woman living in Lagos, Nigeria, though her husband Marcus had dual citizenship and often bragged about their American ties. They lived in a modest duplex Marcus inherited from his father. Amara ran a small catering business from home, while Marcus worked as an assistant manager at a real estate company owned by Claudia Richards, a confident, wealthy woman in her mid-40s, known for her luxury cars and designer suits. To outsiders, the Johnsons looked like a happy couple. But behind closed doors, things were falling apart. Marcus had grown distant, irritable, and cold. He criticized everything Amara did, her food, her clothes, even the way she talked. He stopped touching her, stopped smiling at her, and started spending nights working late. Amara noticed the signs. Every wife does. One afternoon, as she prepared egusi soup for dinner, she saw a lipstick stain on Marcus's shirt. The shade wasn't hers. The scent wasn't hers either. When she confronted him, he didn't even deny it. "You don't understand," Marcus said, pacing angrily. "I've been stuck for years. Claudia sees potential in me. She believes I can be more than just a poor boy from Surulere. She said she could make me a partner if I focused on myself instead of being tied down with all this." He gestured toward her. The kitchen, the children, the life they had built. "All this?" Amara repeated, her voice trembling. "Marcus, this is your family, your children, me." He turned away. "You'll survive. You always do." That night, Amara cried herself to sleep beside her 2 children, who didn't understand why their father had stopped tucking them in. The next morning, she found a pink envelope in the kitchen drawer. Divorce papers. Still, Amara refused to let bitterness consume her. She continued her catering business, selling food to offices across Victoria Island. Life was hard, but she kept moving, until the day fate took an unexpected turn. It was a sunny Tuesday when she stopped by a small supermarket to buy flour. On her way out, she noticed a bright poster at the counter. "Mega Millions, Nigeria U.S. Crossover Lottery. Win up to $600 million. The shopkeeper laughed. Don't waste your money, madam. Nobody wins that thing. Amara smiled faintly. Maybe, but what if today's different? She had just 1,000 naira left after paying her bus fare and buying groceries. Against all logic, she used 500 naira to buy a single ticket, marking numbers that represented her children's birthdays and her wedding anniversary. Then she forgot about it. Life continued, painfully. Marcus moved in with Claudia, flaunting photos on social media of their lavish dinners and trips. His family began mocking Amara openly. Evelyn, his mother, told neighbors, "I warned my son not to marry a woman beneath him." A week later, Amara's landlord arrived with an eviction notice. Marcus had stopped paying rent. She tried calling him. He ignored every call. That was the day Evelyn arrived with her daughters and told Amara to pack her load. When Amara pleaded, they dragged her out and threw her belongings into the street. And that's how she ended up in the rain with her children, praying for a miracle. On the third night at the bus stop, Nina fell sick. Amara held her close, her heart pounding with fear. She didn't know what to do. Then an elderly man, a stranger, appeared out of nowhere. He wore a faded agbada and carried a walking stick. "Why are you crying, my daughter?" he asked gently. Amara explained everything, how her husband left her, how she had nowhere to go. The old man smiled. "Sometimes the people who throw you away are just making room for your destiny." She looked up, confused. "Sir?" He pointed his stick toward her chest. "The seed of greatness is never buried in comfort. It blossoms in pain." Then, just as suddenly as he appeared, he walked away into the night. Amara thought she was dreaming, until she realized he had dropped something beside her bag. A newspaper, folded neatly with a bold headline, "Mega Millions crossover jackpot winner announced, $600 million. Her eyes widened as she unfolded it. There, printed in black and white, were the winning numbers, and as she compared them with the ticket in her bag, her breath caught in her throat. The numbers matched. Every single one. Her body froze. The ticket trembled in her hand. She blinked again to be sure. It was real. Amara Johnson, the homeless woman at a bus stop, was now the winner of the $600 million jackpot. Her knees buckled. Tears of disbelief flooded her eyes. Her children looked up at her, frightened. "Mama, what's wrong?" Nina asked. Amara smiled through her tears and whispered, "God just changed our story." The next morning, she went to the lottery office in Victoria Island. At first, the staff thought she was joking. Her wrapper was torn, her face swollen from sleepless nights. But when she presented the ticket and ID, silence filled the room. Within hours, news spread across Nigeria and beyond. Homeless Nigerian mother wins $600 million lottery. Reporters swarmed her, cameras flashed. The same world that had ignored her now wanted her story. By evening, her name was trending across social media platforms in both Nigeria and the United States. Amara Johnson, the miracle woman. But while the world celebrated, her husband's family sat frozen in shock. Marcus dropped his champagne glass as he watched the news broadcast in Claudia's penthouse. His hands shook. "Amara, won $600 million?" he muttered. Claudia's expression darkened, and for the first time, Marcus realized he had traded gold for glitter. He tried calling Amara. The call didn't go through. He tried again. Nothing. Then Evelyn, his mother, grabbed her phone. "We have to go to her. She'll forgive us. She's a good woman." But Amara was no longer the woman they knew. She was done begging, done crying, done being silent. When they finally saw her again, it wouldn't be at the gate, in the rain. It would be in her new mansion, with guards, lawyers, and the world watching. And she would have the power to decide who gets in and who stays out. 2 days after Amara's life changed forever, she found herself sitting in a glass-walled office overlooking the glittering skyline of Victoria Island. Cameras flashed outside. Reporters crowded around the lottery headquarters, desperate to get a glimpse of the woman whose story had shaken the nation. She still couldn't believe it. The polished table before her, the suits surrounding her, the smell of air conditioning instead of rain. Just a week ago, she and her children had been sleeping under a bridge. Now, financial advisors were calling her Ma'am Johnson, her name appearing on CNN, BBC, and every Nigerian news outlet. "Congratulations again, Mrs. Johnson," said a cheerful young man in a navy suit. "You'll receive your full winnings after tax processing. That's approximately $600 million, transferred in installments for security. We recommend setting up a trust fund for your children and a financial protection team." Amara blinked slowly. "$600 million, she repeated, her voice distant. "Yes, ma'am," he said with a smile. "You're one of the largest lottery winners in African history. You've made history today." Her children sat beside her. Nina staring wide-eyed at the chandelier, Junior clutching his toy car nervously. They were clean now, dressed in new clothes the staff had bought for them. For the first time in months, Amara smiled. Her mind flashed back to the nights she begged God for a miracle. She had cried until her tears ran dry. She had felt forgotten, abandoned. Yet here she was, standing tall, not by human help, but divine mercy. As the staff handed her documents, cameras began snapping photos through the glass walls. Her story was no longer just hers. It had become a symbol of hope for countless women who had been cast aside and told they were nothing. That evening, when Amara stepped out of the building, the crowd erupted. "Amara! Amara!" journalists shouted. "How does it feel to go from homeless to millionaire overnight?" She smiled politely, clutching her children's hands. "It feels like grace," she said simply. "Any message for your husband who abandoned you?" one reporter asked sharply. Amara paused, her gaze calm but piercing. "God sees everything," she said softly, then walked toward the waiting black SUV the lottery company had provided. The driver opened the door. "Welcome, madam." As the car pulled away, Amara looked out the window at the city lights. The people cheering outside had no idea what she'd endured, or how deep her wounds still ran. Meanwhile, in Claudia Richards's luxury penthouse, tension filled the air like a storm. Marcus Johnson paced the living room, his shirt half-buttoned, his eyes bloodshot. "Claudia, I need to see her. She can't just take all that money and—" Claudia cut him off, sipping her wine. "Take what money, Marcus? It's her win, not yours." He glared at her. "She's still my wife. The divorce papers weren't finalized." Claudia raised a brow. "You mean the same wife you abandoned? The one you let your family humiliate?" She smirked. "Good luck convincing her you deserve a cent." Marcus clenched his jaw. "You don't understand, Claudia. $600 million. That could change everything for us." Claudia's expression hardened. "For you, maybe?" "Don't drag me into your mess. I don't share men, especially broke ones." The words stung. Marcus realized, perhaps too late, that the woman he'd chosen over his family cared more about wealth than love. He grabbed his car keys. "I'm going to find Amara." "Do that," Claudia said coolly, turning back to her glass of wine. "Just don't come back." Across town, Evelyn Johnson sat in her parlor, trembling as she watched the news. The reporter's voice echoed. "The once homeless mother of two, Amara Johnson, has officially been declared the winner of the $600 million Mega Millions crossover jackpot." Evelyn turned off the TV, her face pale. "My God, what have I done?" she muttered. Her daughters, Sandra and Rita, exchanged worried looks. "Mama, maybe we should go and apologize," Sandra whispered. Evelyn glared at her. "Apologize? After all she said about my son?" "But Mama, she's rich now," Rita said carefully, And everyone's talking about her. People are saying we threw her out into the rain." Evelyn's eyes widened. "What? They're saying that?" "Yes, Mama. It's all over social media. There's even a video someone took that night. The neighbors recorded it." Evelyn's hand flew to her chest. "Lord have mercy!" She stood abruptly. "We need to fix this before she ruins our family name. Pack your bags. We're going to her." By the next morning, Amara had been moved into a 5-star hotel in Ikoyi under security escort. The management had given her the presidential suite, complete with ocean views, marble floors, and gold accents. When she entered the suite, she froze. It was the kind of room she used to see only on TV. Silk curtains, chandeliers, a bathtub as big as her old kitchen. Nina and Junior squealed in delight, running across the plush carpet. "Mummy, look! The bathroom has a TV!" Nina cried. Amara laughed softly, tears filling her eyes. "We won't ever sleep on the street again," she whispered, pulling them close. The next few days were a blur. The lottery company helped her open accounts, hire lawyers, and arrange travel plans. She was offered brand endorsements, interviews, and speaking invitations. But in the midst of the newfound attention, Amara remained humble. She spent her days praying, reflecting, and planning. When a financial advisor asked what she wanted to do first with her money, she said quietly, "I want to build homes for single mothers who've been abandoned. Like me." The man smiled. "That's a noble goal, ma'am." Amara nodded. No woman should ever have to beg in the rain with her children. 3 days after her win, as she sat on the balcony of her suite sipping tea, a knock came at the door. Her bodyguard, a tall man named Tunda, opened it slightly. "Madam, there are some people here asking to see you. They say they're your family." Amara's hand stilled midair. "My family?" "Yes, ma'am. An older woman and 2 younger ladies. They're downstairs in the lobby." Amara's chest tightened. She didn't need to ask who they were. She took a slow breath. "Tell them to wait." 5 minutes later, she appeared in the lobby, dressed simply, but radiating quiet power. Her security guards flanked her. When Evelyn saw her, she gasped. "Amara! My daughter! Thank God you're okay!" She rushed forward, tears streaming. Amara didn't move. Her eyes were cold, unreadable. Sandra and Rita stepped forward too, smiling nervously. "We came to apologize," Sandra said. "We were wrong." Evelyn clasped her hands. "Please forgive us, my daughter. You know we didn't mean those things we said. It was just frustration. We love you." Amara studied them silently. The same people who threw her into the street were now trembling before her. After a long pause, she said softly, "You love me? When I begged you to let my children sleep inside that night, you called us beggars. When I cried, you laughed." "Amara, please," Evelyn sobbed. "We didn't know what we were doing." Amara's voice remained calm. "But now that I have money, suddenly you know." The entire lobby had gone silent. Hotel guests and staff watched the scene unfold, whispering among themselves. Evelyn fell to her knees. "Please, my daughter, don't shame us like this. The world is watching." Amara looked down at her. "Yes, the world is watching, and it's finally seeing who you really are." She turned to Tunda. "Escort them out." "Amara, wait!" Sandra cried, reaching out. Amara stopped briefly, her tone sharp but steady. "The woman you threw out in the rain is gone. Don't call me Amara. My name is Mrs. Johnson." Then she walked away, leaving them kneeling on the marble floor. That evening, Marcus finally showed up at the hotel. His shirt was wrinkled, his face tired, and his confidence shattered. When he saw her step out of the elevator, he froze. "Amara," he whispered. She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here, Marcus?" He forced a smile. "I just wanted to see you, to talk." She folded her arms. "Talk?" After abandoning your children and parading your new woman around like a trophy? Please, Amara, don't say it like that. I made a mistake. A mistake? She repeated coldly. You left your wife for your boss. You watched your children sleep in the rain. That's not a mistake, Marcus. That's a choice. Marcus stepped closer. I'm sorry, okay? I was stupid. I thought Claudia cared about me, but she kicked me out the moment she heard you won. I have nothing now. Amara smiled faintly. Then maybe you finally understand what it feels like to have nothing. He fell to his knees. Please, Amara, give me another chance. For the kids. Amara's face softened for a moment, then she took a step back. You didn't think of the kids when you left. Don't use them now. She turned away, but his voice followed her desperately. Amara, please, don't do this. Without turning around, she said quietly, You did this, Marcus, not me. The elevator doors closed, leaving Marcus alone in the lobby, his cries echoing off the marble walls. Later that night, as the children slept peacefully for the first time in months, Amara sat by the window, watching the waves crash against the shore. Her phone buzzed. Hundreds of messages, offers, and interview requests. She scrolled past them all, then paused when she saw a message from an unknown number. It read, The world will soon know what you did. Money can't hide secrets. Her breath caught. She read it again, confused. Then another message followed. Remember the night before you won? The old man wasn't who you think. A chill ran down her spine. Who could have sent that? She stared into the darkness, her mind spinning. The joy of the past days suddenly felt fragile, tainted by something unseen. Was someone trying to blackmail her? Or was there something more sinister about that mysterious old man who had given her the newspaper? Her heart began to race. She had thought her trials were over, but deep down she could feel it. Something bigger was coming. And this time it wouldn't be about betrayal or forgiveness. It would be about survival. Before we continue, I want to hear from you, our amazing viewers watching this story right now. What would you have done if your family threw you out and just a week later you became a millionaire? Would you forgive them like Amara tried to? Or would you shut them out completely? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if it's keeping you hooked so far. The next chapter takes an even darker turn. You won't want to miss it. The following morning dawned bright and golden, but Amara's heart was heavy. The mysterious text messages from the night before kept replaying in her mind like an echo she couldn't silence. The world will soon know what you did. The old man wasn't who you think. She barely slept. Every sound outside her hotel room, the hum of cars, the chatter of the hallway, the distant roll of waves, made her flinch. By sunrise, she had convinced herself it might be a cruel prank. Perhaps someone wanted attention, or maybe it was Marcus trying to scare her into talking. But deep inside, a flicker of unease refused to die. She rose quietly, wrapped her robe around herself, and walked to the balcony. Below her, Lagos Island was already awake, hawkers shouting, Danfo buses honking, and the smell of roasted corn drifting in from the streets. $600 million, she whispered. Why can't I just be happy? Behind her, the door opened slightly. Mummy? She turned to see Nina standing there in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Morning, baby, Amara said, forcing a smile. Nina walked over and climbed into her lap. Are you thinking again? Amara chuckled softly. How did you know? Because your face looks like when Daddy made you cry, Nina said innocently. The words pierced her heart. Amara kissed her daughter's forehead. No one will make us cry again, okay? Nina nodded sleepily. Okay, Mummy. Amara held her close, whispering a silent prayer. But as the child drifted back to sleep in her arms, Amara's phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a message, it was a photo. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It showed the bus stop where she and her children had slept, the same one where she had met the old man. But in this photo, there was something wrong. The old man wasn't alone. Behind him stood a shadow, tall, cloaked, face hidden, and the timestamp on the photo was the same night she won. Amara's stomach turned cold. Whoever was sending these messages wasn't joking. They had been there that night, watching her. 2 hours later, Amara sat with her lawyer and newly hired security consultant, Chief Damilola Bamidele, a stern man in his 50s with a deep voice and an ex-police background. She showed him the messages and the photo. Damilola frowned. "Madam, this could be extortion. Or worse, someone may be tracking you. With this kind of money, you'll attract all sorts of attention." Amara swallowed hard. "But what do they mean about the old man? He just helped me. He told me to have faith." The lawyer, a young woman named Aisha Bello, tapped her pen thoughtfully. "Maybe they're using that story to build a threat narrative. Don't reply to any messages, ma'am. We'll track the number and report it to the police." Amara nodded, trying to stay calm. But deep down, she knew there was more to it. That man had appeared out of nowhere, in the middle of the night, under a bridge, holding a newspaper with the exact winning numbers. Had that really been coincidence? She didn't know. But she was determined to find out. Meanwhile, the Johnson family's world had collapsed. Evelyn's small business, already struggling, was now losing customers fast. Her neighbors whispered behind her back, calling her the wicked mother-in-law who threw out a billionaire. Sandra's fiancé had called off their wedding. Rita's friends had stopped answering her calls. The humiliation was unbearable. Evelyn sat on her couch, weeping. "We have to make peace with Amara," she said for the 100th time. Sandra scoffed. "Mama, she won't even talk to us. You saw what she did at the hotel." Evelyn's eyes darkened. "Then we'll make her talk. I didn't raise a fool. That money came after she met that strange man, Abby. Maybe she's involved in something dark." Rita frowned. "Mama, are you saying she did juju?" Evelyn's voice dropped. "Money that comes from nowhere always has a price. Mark my words. That woman will regret it." At that same moment, Marcus stood outside the hotel gates. He had been there for hours, hoping to see Amara again. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unkempt. When the guards finally approached him, one of them said, "Sir, Madam Johnson doesn't want to see you." Marcus clenched his fists. "Please, just tell her I love her. Tell her I want to see my children." The guard didn't reply. He simply turned away. Marcus sat down on the curb, burying his face in his hands. He had lost everything: his marriage, his job, his dignity. Claudia had replaced him with another man barely a week after the lottery news broke. Now he was just a broke ex-husband watching his former life from behind steel gates. He thought about Amara, how she used to pack his lunch every morning, how she prayed for him before work, and guilt swallowed him whole. For the first time, he wished he could turn back time. But it was too late. 2 days later, Amara attended her first official press conference. It was held at the Eco Convention Center, and the hall was packed. Journalists, photographers, government representatives, and business elites. She wore a sleek emerald gown with a matching head wrap, looking regal and composed. As she stepped up to the podium, flashes filled the room. "Good morning," she began softly, her voice steady. "A week ago, I had nothing. Today, I have everything. But what I really want isn't money. It's to use this blessing to help those who feel forgotten." The room fell silent. Cameras clicked. "I've decided to donate $10 million to build homes for widows and single mothers across Africa. I'll also be starting a foundation, the Nina and Junior Foundation, to provide education for children living in poverty." Applause erupted. But as she smiled graciously, a reporter raised his hand. "Mrs. Johnson, one question. There are rumors that your win wasn't luck, that a mysterious man was involved. Can you tell us who he was?" Amara froze for a fraction of a second. The crowd leaned forward, curious. "I don't know much about him," she said finally. He appeared when I was at my lowest, gave me hope, and disappeared. I haven't seen him since." The reporter nodded. "Do you think he knew something about your win?" Amara smiled faintly. "I think he knew God wasn't done with me yet." The crowd clapped again, but deep inside, her pulse was racing. Because even as she said those words, she saw a figure in the back of the hall, an old man in a faded agbada, standing still amidst the crowd. Their eyes met, and just like before, he smiled. Before she could react, he was gone. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed the scene again and again. "Was it really him?" she whispered. Tunde, her bodyguard, had checked the security footage, but there was no sign of any old man in the crowd, no record, no entry, no face on any camera. Yet Amara was sure of what she saw. Around midnight, she heard a knock on her door. "Who's there?" she called. "Room service," a voice replied. "I didn't order anything," she said. There was a pause. Then the voice said quietly, "The gift was never about money." Amara's heart stopped. She jumped from the bed and rushed to the door, but when she opened it, the hallway was empty. No one was there. Only a folded newspaper lay on the floor. She picked it up with trembling hands. It was old, yellowed, the same edition from the night she'd met the man, but this time there was a new message scrawled across the front page in ink. "What was given can also be taken back." Her breath caught. She dropped the paper and backed away slowly, clutching her chest. Then she heard it, a faint whisper, somewhere in the room. Her children stirred in their sleep, murmuring. The lights flickered, and in the reflection of the window, she thought she saw a shadow move behind her. But when she turned, there was nothing. The next morning, Amara called Chief Damalola in panic. "I think someone's inside my suite," she said breathlessly. "Calm down, ma'am. Are you safe right now?" "Yes, but—" She hesitated. "Strange things keep happening. I hear voices. I see things. My children are scared." Damalola sighed. "We'll move you to a secure location, somewhere private, maybe outside Lagos for now." Within hours, Amara and her children were relocated to a private villa in Lekki Phase 1. It was heavily guarded, quiet, and surrounded by tall fences, but peace still eluded her. At night, she dreamed of the old man, standing in the rain, smiling, holding that same newspaper. In the dream, he said the same words over and over again. "The seed of greatness blossoms in pain." And every time she woke, she felt that her life, the fame, the fortune, the headlines, had all come with a price she didn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Marcus, desperate and broken, went to visit his mother. "Mama," he said bitterly, "Amara's ignoring me. I've lost everything." Evelyn scoffed. "You should never have gone back to beg her. That woman's luck isn't ordinary." "Mama, what are you saying?" "I'm saying there's something wrong with that money," she whispered. "No one wins 600 million after sleeping under a bridge unless something spiritual is involved." Marcus frowned. "You think she did?" "Yes," Evelyn snapped. "Juju. Sacrifice. Maybe she gave something to get it. I've heard stories." Marcus shook his head. "No, Amara wouldn't." "Then how do you explain the man she met that night?" Evelyn cut in. "Who was he? Where did he come from? Tell me, Marcus." He had no answer. Evelyn leaned closer. "Mark my words. That woman's miracle will soon turn into her curse." Back at the villa, Amara sat at her desk, reading through documents for her foundation's launch, but her focus was broken when Tunde knocked on the door. "Madam, someone sent this package for you." She frowned. "From who?" "No name, ma'am. Just this note." He handed her a small box wrapped in brown paper. On top, a note in neat handwriting read, "The countdown has begun." Her pulse quickened. She tore it open. Inside was an old gold coin, engraved with a strange symbol, and underneath it, a photo of the old man, standing beside a younger version of her husband, Marcus. Amara gasped. What is this?" Tunde leaned in. "Madam, are you okay?" But Amara's mind was spinning. Marcus had met the old man before? How? When? She turned the coin in her palm, feeling its weight, its coldness. The edges shimmered faintly in the light, as if alive. And then she realized the same symbol was carved into the ring Marcus used to wear years ago. Her chest tightened. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. Something was connecting her husband, that mysterious man, and her fortune, something deeper than chance, and Amara could feel it in her bones. She was about to uncover the truth, but she might not survive it. The morning sun poured through the tall curtains of the Leckie villa, painting golden stripes across the marble floor. But Amara felt no warmth. She sat at her dressing table, staring at the gold coin she had found the night before. The coin's surface shimmered faintly as if it breathed, the strange symbol etched on it glinting under the light. It was a circular pattern, a serpent swallowing its own tail, surrounding 3 triangles that pointed inward. She couldn't explain why, but every time she looked at it, a strange chill crept down her spine. Tunda, her bodyguard, entered the room quietly. "Madam, I've confirmed. There's no record of who delivered that package. It came through a courier, cash payment, no name." Amara frowned, her voice low. "What about the photo?" He hesitated. "We had our tech guy scan it. It's genuine, ma'am. It wasn't edited. That old man was really standing beside your husband." Amara's heart skipped. "How is that possible? Marcus never mentioned him. He didn't even seem to recognize him when I described him." Tunde shook his head. "Maybe he didn't want to." Amara looked away, gripping the coin tightly. "I need answers, Tunde. Find Marcus. Tell him I want to see him." Later that afternoon, Marcus arrived at the villa, escorted by 2 guards. His clothes were still disheveled, and his eyes heavy with guilt and sleeplessness. When he entered the living room, Amara stood near the window, back turned. "You took your time," she said flatly. Marcus exhaled slowly. "You're the one who threw me out, remember?" She turned sharply, her eyes burning. "After what you did, I should have done worse. But right now, I'm not here to talk about our past. I want to know about him." "Who?" Marcus frowned. She tossed the photo on the table. "The old man. The one who gave me the newspaper. Don't play dumb, Marcus. He's standing right beside you in this picture." Marcus's face went pale. His hands trembled as he picked up the photo. "Where did you get this?" "Answer me," Amara demanded. He swallowed hard. "That man. His name is Baba Naji. I met him years ago, before I got the job with Claudia." "What kind of man is he?" Marcus hesitated. "He's not ordinary. People say he sees things, future things. He came to me once, said I'd rise to greatness but lose everything if I let greed control me." Amara stared. "And you didn't tell me this?" He looked away. "You'd have called it superstition. I didn't believe him myself." "Then why is he haunting me now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Marcus said weakly. "But if he's back, it's not good. People say when Baba Naji reappears in your life, it means your destiny is being rewritten." Amara froze. "Rewritten?" Marcus nodded. "He deals with balance, blessings and curses. He gives both, depending on what the person deserves." Her eyes widened. "You mean he gave me this fortune? Or he let it find you?" Marcus whispered. "But if you didn't earn it in his eyes, he'll come to collect it back." The words sent a shiver down her spine. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound seemed louder. She sat by her window, holding the coin again, the serpent symbol seeming to pulse faintly. Suddenly the lights flickered. Her phone buzzed. Another message. Balance must be restored. Before she could react, her phone turned off on its own. Then, from the hallway, she heard a faint whisper, a voice that sent chills through her bones. Amara! She turned slowly. The old man stood at the end of the hallway, barefoot, his robe drenched as if from rain. Amara gasped. How did you get in here? He smiled faintly, his eyes glowing with a strange light. You called me. When you questioned your blessing, the door opened again. Amara took a step back. What do you want from me? He walked closer, his feet silent on the marble floor. You asked for mercy. You received it. But now, others want their share of your fortune. I don't understand, she whispered. You will, he said softly. Soon, the ones who hurt you will face their own test. If you show mercy, your wealth will bless generations. But if you let anger rule your heart, everything you love will be taken. Amara's chest rose and fell quickly. What kind of test? But he only smiled sadly. You'll know when it begins. And just like that, he was gone. The hallway empty, the air still. Amara stood frozen, trembling, unable to tell if what she had seen was real or a dream. The next morning, Tunde found her sitting on the living room couch, her face pale. Madam, are you okay? She nodded slowly. He came here last night. Tunde frowned. Who? The old man, Baba Naji. Tunde's eyes narrowed. That's impossible. The guards were awake all night. No one came in. I saw him, she insisted. He said people will face their test. That if I don't forgive, I'll lose everything. Tunde hesitated, then said quietly, Madam, maybe you've been under too much stress. Let's take a break from all this. No more press, no more interviews. Just rest. Amara wanted to believe him. She wanted to think it was all in her head. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. Because later that day, the first test began. At exactly noon, she received a call from the hospital. It was Marcus. He'd been in an accident. Amara's breath caught. What happened? He was hit by a truck on 3rd Mainland Bridge, the nurse said. He's in critical condition. Amara's hands trembled. I'm on my way. When she arrived at the hospital, Marcus lay unconscious, tubes and machines surrounding him. His face was bruised, his leg in a cast. The doctor explained that he had survived miraculously. The truck had crushed his car, but somehow the steering had jammed in a way that kept him from being thrown off the bridge. Amara sat beside him, silent tears running down her face. Suddenly she felt a presence beside her, soft, cold, familiar. She looked up, and there he was again, the old man standing beside Marcus's bed. You see, he said calmly, the test has begun. What do you mean? She whispered. He looked at Marcus. This man broke your heart, betrayed you, left you to die. Now he lies broken. What will you do, Amara Johnson? Her lips quivered. I don't know. He smiled faintly. Every blessing comes with a choice. If you choose forgiveness, you multiply what you have. If you choose revenge, you lose what you were given. Amara stared at Marcus's unconscious form, her mind torn between anger and compassion. After a long silence, she said quietly, He doesn't deserve my mercy, but my children deserve peace. The old man nodded slowly. Then mercy shall protect you. When she blinked, he was gone again. Moments later, Marcus's heart monitor began to beep steadily. He was alive. The next day, Amara paid all of Marcus's hospital bills anonymously. She didn't visit again, but the doctor said his condition was improving rapidly. She thought that would be the end of it. But she was wrong, because the second test came that same evening. She received another call, this time from the police. Mrs. Johnson, your mother-in-law, Mrs. Evelyn Johnson, has been arrested. Amara frowned. Arrested? For what? She and her daughters were caught trying to defraud people online, using your name and photos to raise fake funds. We have their confession. Amara closed her eyes, shaking her head. Oh, God. When she got to the police station, Evelyn sat on a bench, weeping. Amara, please, she cried as soon as she saw her. It wasn't my idea. Sandra said we could pretend to be your charity account. We were desperate. Amara looked at her quietly. Desperate? Like I was when you threw me into the street? Evelyn sobbed louder. Please, my daughter, forgive us. Don't let them jail me. I'm old. I'll die there. Amara's heart pounded. The same words echoed in her head. If you choose revenge, you lose what you were given. She turned to the officer. Let them go. The officer blinked. Ma'am, are you sure? Yes, she said softly. They've learned their lesson. Evelyn fell to her knees, crying. God bless you, my child. I was blind. Amara simply nodded and walked out. When she stepped outside, the sky rumbled with thunder, and as lightning flashed across the horizon, she saw him again, the old man, standing by the gate. This time, he smiled warmly. Balance is being restored. Amara stared. Why are you helping me? He looked at her for a long moment. Because once, you helped someone when you had nothing. You shared your food with a beggar. You gave without expecting return. The universe remembered. Tears filled her eyes. Who are you, really? He smiled faintly. A messenger, nothing more. Then he began to walk away, his figure fading into the wind. Wait, she called out. Will I ever see you again? He turned briefly and said, Only if you forget what you've learned. And then he vanished. That night, Amara sat by her window again, watching the rain pour. Her heart was heavy, but peaceful. For the first time since her life had changed, she felt free. Free from bitterness, from fear, from the chains of her past. Her children ran to her, laughing. Mommy, look! We made a rainbow with the torchlight. She smiled, pulling them close. That's beautiful. You two are my greatest treasures. As she hugged them, a soft breeze blew through the room, carrying with it the faint scent of rain and something else, something sacred. In that moment, Amara understood what Baba Naji meant. Her wealth wasn't the $600 million in her bank. It was her faith, her forgiveness, her family. And as she whispered a prayer of gratitude, the storm outside quieted, the air filled with peace. But just as she began to drift into sleep, her phone buzzed one last time. A new message. This one didn't come from an unknown number. It came from Marcus's phone. Her blood ran cold as she read it. He's not gone, Amara. He's coming for you next. The sound of crashing waves echoed faintly through the open windows of Amara's villa, but inside her room, silence reigned. Her hands trembled as she stared at the message glowing on her phone screen. He's not gone, Amara. He's coming for you next. It was sent from Marcus's number, yet Marcus was still lying in the hospital bed, barely recovering from his accident. Her heart pounded violently. What is this? She whispered, pacing back and forth. She dialed his number immediately. The call connected, but instead of the weak, broken voice she expected, she heard a faint, raspy chuckle. Hello, Amara, the voice said. Her blood froze. It wasn't Marcus's voice. Who are you? She demanded. What do you want? The voice on the line was calm, eerie, almost amused. Do you really think fortune comes free? Do you think $600 million was just luck? Amara's knees went weak. What do you mean? The one who gives also takes, the voice whispered. And his debt is due. Then the line went dead. Amara stood there in the middle of her room, trembling, her heart beating like thunder. She looked at her phone again. The call log showed Marcus Johnson, but Marcus couldn't have called. He didn't even have his phone in the hospital. An hour later, Amara sat in the living room with Tundi and Chief Damilola, her security consultant. "You're telling us you got a call from your husband's number, but he's still in the hospital?" Damilola asked, his brow furrowed. "Yes," Amara said shakily. "And it wasn't his voice. It was something else." Tunde folded his arms. "Could someone be using his SIM card?" Damilola shook his head. "The number's been switched off since he was admitted. I verified that myself when we secured his belongings. This doesn't make sense." Amara rubbed her temples. "Nothing has made sense since that night, since I met that man." The room fell silent. Damilola sighed. "Madam, I've dealt with many kinds of threats. Blackmail, kidnapping, scams. But this? It feels different, like someone's playing with the supernatural." Amara looked up sharply. "Then how do I stop it?" Damilola met her gaze. "Maybe you can't. Maybe this isn't about stopping it. Maybe it's about understanding what it wants." That evening, Amara drove to the hospital, her mind swirling with fear and determination. She needed to see Marcus. When she entered his ward, he was awake, pale but conscious. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Amara," she didn't waste time. "Did you send me a message?" He frowned. "What message?" She held up her phone. "From your number. It said, 'He's coming for you next.' Then I got a call. From your line." Marcus's face went blank with confusion, then drained of color. "I didn't send that," he said slowly. But what?" she pressed. He hesitated. "Last night, before I woke up here, I had a dream. The old man, Baba Naji, he came to me. He said a price must be paid. I thought it was just a nightmare." Amara's breath caught. "A price for what?" Marcus looked down. "For the gift he gave." The following morning, Amara visited an old spiritual counselor, Mama Efeoma, a respected woman known for her wisdom and calm. When Amara explained everything, the old man, the newspaper, the coin, the dreams, Mama Efeoma listened quietly, her wrinkled hands folded on her lap. When Amara finished, Mama Efeoma exhaled deeply. "Child, the man you met was not ordinary flesh and blood. That was a messenger, one of the keepers of destiny." "Keepers of destiny?" Amara repeated, her voice trembling. "Yes," Mama Efeoma said. "They walk among men but belong to another realm. When a person's suffering reaches heaven's attention, sometimes a messenger is sent, not to reward, but to test. They give you what you most desire and watch how you use it." Amara frowned. "So, my win wasn't luck?" Mama Efeoma shook her head. "No blessing is ever without weight. Some use their second chance to heal others, some let greed consume them, and their blessing turns to ashes." Amara swallowed. "He said I'd face tests. I forgave Marcus and his family. Isn't that enough?" Mama Efeoma leaned closer. "Forgiveness is one thing. Freedom from fear is another. You're still haunted, which means your heart isn't yet at peace. Until you make peace with yourself, the messenger won't leave you." Amara's voice cracked. "But how do I do that?" Mama Efeoma smiled softly. "By facing the part of you that still hates what happened. By letting go completely, even of the pain." Amara's eyes filled with tears. "That's not easy." "No, child," Mama Efeoma said, "but neither is greatness." When Amara returned to the villa, she found Evelyn and Sandra waiting outside the gate again. Evelyn's face was swollen from crying. "Please, my daughter. Marcus told us everything. We know now that what happened was spiritual. Please help us. We're scared." Amara sighed. "Scared of what?" Sandra spoke up. "We've been hearing things, Amara. Whispers. Our lights go off at night, and someone keeps knocking at our door. But when we open it, There's no one there. Amara stared at them silently. Evelyn fell to her knees. Please, my daughter. Whatever you brought into this family, please end it. Anger flared in Amara's chest. What I brought? You think I asked for any of this? You think I wanted to meet that man? You threw me out, remember? Evelyn sobbed harder. I know, I was blind, wicked, but please have mercy. For a long time, Amara said nothing. Then she turned to the guards. Let them in. The guards hesitated, but obeyed. Inside, Amara made them sit while she brought out the gold coin. This, she said, placing it on the table, is the symbol of my blessing. And my curse. I don't fully understand it, but whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Evelyn reached out to touch it, but Amara stopped her. Don't. It's not an ordinary coin. Sandra stared at it, wide-eyed. So it's true then. Everything they say about you online, the miracle, the mystery, it's all real. Amara nodded faintly. Too real. At that moment, the lights flickered. The air grew cold. The gold coin began to spin on its own, faster and faster, until it lifted slightly off the table. Evelyn screamed. Stay back! Amara shouted, grabbing her children and pulling them close. The coin stopped abruptly, then slammed down with a loud clink. When Amara looked again, it was glowing faintly. And beside it, a new message had appeared on her phone screen. Final balance in 7 days. For the next few days, Amara lived in quiet dread. She couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep. Every night she dreamed of the old man, his calm face, his haunting words. On the 5th night, she woke up to find the coin on her pillow. She hadn't touched it since that day. Her heart raced. What do you want from me? She whispered. And from the darkness, she heard his voice again. Remember the rain, Amara. Remember where you came from. Suddenly, she saw flashes in her mind. The bus stop, the thunderstorm, her children crying, her own voice whispering desperate prayers. The man's words echoed in her head. The seed of greatness blossoms in pain. And then she understood. Her journey wasn't about money or revenge. It was about purpose. The tests weren't punishments. They were reminders of who she was before fortune blinded her. She stood slowly, tears streaming down her face. I understand now, she whispered. Thank you. The air grew still. The coin stopped glowing. And for the first time, Amara felt peace wash over her, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The next morning, she gathered her children and her staff. We're going back, she announced. Back where, ma'am? Tunde asked. To the bus stop, she said with a faint smile. Where everything began. They drove quietly through the city until they reached the same place she'd been thrown out, the same place she met Baba Naji. The old bus stop was still there, the roof rusted, the bench cracked. Amara stepped out, holding her children's hands. This was our home once, she told them softly, but now it's the beginning of our new home for others. Behind her, a construction banner already stood. Site of the Hope Shelter, founded by Amara Johnson Foundation. She had bought the land the previous week without telling anyone. Nina looked up at her, smiling. Mummy, will other children live here too? Amara nodded. Yes, baby. Children who have no home, like we once didn't. As she spoke, a gentle breeze passed through the bus stop, carrying with it a soft, almost familiar whisper. Balance restored. Amara turned, but no one was there. She smiled through her tears. Goodbye, Baba Naji. And with that, she finally felt free. That evening, as the sun dipped below the Lagos skyline, Amara sat on her balcony watching her children play. Her phone buzzed again, one last notification. It was from an unknown number. Your story has inspired millions. The world will know your name. The Messengers. Amara exhaled softly, placing the phone aside. She looked up at the glowing sky and whispered, "Then let my story remind them. Miracles don't come to make you proud. They come to make you whole." She smiled, closing her eyes as the golden sunset bathed her face, finally, completely at peace. Night had settled over Lagos, and the newly built Hope Shelter glowed softly under the floodlights. Children laughed in the courtyard, mothers cooked by the communal kitchen, and gentle music drifted through the compound. From her office window, Amara watched the scene with quiet pride. The once homeless woman now owned a center that gave hundreds of displaced families safety and dignity. Yet, as she smiled, something inside her still stirred, an unshakable sense that her journey wasn't finished. Tunde entered the office, holding a file. "Madam, the final inspection report is ready. Everything looks perfect." Amara turned and took it. "Thank you, Tunde. You've done well." He nodded respectfully. "It's an honor to serve you, ma'am." "But—" He hesitated. Amara noticed his tone. "But what?" Some of the construction workers said strange things. They claim they've seen an old man walking around the site at night, in a long robe. They say he doesn't speak, just stands near the gate and disappears. Amara's heart skipped. When did this start? Last night. She closed her eyes briefly, a faint sigh escaping her lips. It's him. He's watching. Tunde frowned. The same man from your story? Baba Naji? Yes. She turned toward the window again. He said I'd only see him again if I forgot what I'd learned. Maybe he's not here for me. Maybe he's here for someone else. That night the air grew heavy. A storm rolled across the sky, thunder echoing far away. Amara lay awake in her room at the villa, staring at the ceiling. Her children slept peacefully in the next room, their small breaths comforting her. But the storm outside reminded her of the one from a year ago, the night she'd lost everything and met her mysterious savior. Her phone buzzed again, lighting up her bedside table. A new message appeared. The final balance will be decided tonight. Her pulse quickened. She got out of bed and walked to the balcony. The sky was black and trembling with lightning. In the distance, she saw a silhouette standing at the gates of her compound. Tall, still, familiar. Baba Naji. Her throat tightened. What now? She whispered. She grabbed her shawl and quietly stepped outside. The compound was eerily silent. The guards were nowhere in sight, as if the world had paused. The old man stood under the rain, the same faint smile on his face. Amara approached slowly. You said everything was balanced. Why are you here again? He tilted his head slightly. Because balance never ends. It moves, like time. Amara's eyes glistened. I built the shelter. I forgave everyone. What else do you want from me? He looked at her tenderly. You have done well, child. But now, the blessing must move beyond you. You were chosen not to keep it, but to pass it forward. I've given to the poor. He raised a hand gently. Not wealth, wisdom, the story, the truth of mercy. You must tell it yourself. To the world. Amara frowned. Tell it? Why? He smiled faintly. Because miracles die in silence. You were saved not to hide, but to teach. She exhaled slowly, her tears mixing with the rain. Then what happens after I tell it? He looked at her with eyes as deep as the ocean. Then you will finally rest. Lightning flashed. And he was gone. The next morning, Amara made a decision that shocked everyone around her. At a press conference broadcast live across Africa, she stood on stage wearing a simple white dress, no jewelry, no makeup. Good morning, she began softly. Many of you know me as the woman who won $600 million. But today, I want to tell you what really happened. Reporters leaned forward, cameras clicked, Amara took a deep breath and told her story from the beginning. The betrayal, the night in the rain, the old man, the miracle, and the tests that followed. People listened in stunned silence. When she finished, she said, "I learned that blessings come with responsibility. I learned that forgiveness is stronger than wealth. And I learned that sometimes, God uses pain to lead us to purpose. I am not rich because I have money. I am rich because I have peace." The hall erupted in applause, some people openly crying. That broadcast went viral. Within a week, the Hope Shelter Foundation received donations and volunteers from across the continent. Amara's story became a global inspiration, the woman who forgave the world that broke her. But one person wasn't clapping. Claudia Richards, Marcus's former boss and lover, watched the broadcast from her penthouse, bitterness twisting her features. "She turned into a saint," she muttered, sipping her wine. "A perfect, humble queen." Her assistant glanced nervously. "Madam, maybe it's time to let it go." Claudia's eyes narrowed. "Let it go? She ruined me. My company collapsed after the scandal. My investors left. That woman took everything." She stood abruptly, slamming her glass on the counter. "If she thinks she's untouchable, she's wrong." That night, Claudia made a call, one that would set off the chain of events leading to the story's darkest hour. 2 days later, a fire broke out at the Hope Shelter. It started quietly, a flicker in the generator room, then spread like wildfire. Mothers screamed. Children ran. Tunde burst into Amara's villa shouting, "Madam, the shelter! It's burning!" Amara's heart stopped. She grabbed her car keys and raced out with him. By the time they arrived, the building was engulfed in flames. The air was thick with smoke, and the sound of crying filled the night. "Where are the children?" Amara screamed. "We've rescued most of them," a firefighter yelled, "but 2 are still inside." Without thinking, Amara ran toward the entrance. Tunde tried to stop her, but she broke free. "Madam, no!" She covered her face with her scarf and dashed through the thick smoke, coughing violently. Inside, flames licked the walls. She could barely see. Then, faint cries. "Help! Mummy Amara!" She followed the voices and found 2 small boys trapped under fallen beams. "It's okay," she shouted. "I'm here." She pulled at the burning wood, ignoring the heat that seared her skin. One by one, she lifted them free, pushing them toward the door. When the last boy reached safety, the ceiling above her cracked. She turned. Too late. The beam fell. Darkness swallowed her. Hours later, Amara woke to the sound of beeping machines. She was in the hospital, her body wrapped in bandages. Her children were asleep beside her bed. Tunde sat in a chair, tears in his eyes. When he saw her open her eyes, he stood. "Madam, thank God you made it!" Amara tried to speak, her throat dry. "The children—" "They're safe," he said quickly. "You saved them." She smiled weakly, tears slipping down her face. "Thank God." But then she saw something, at the foot of her bed. A faint shimmer. Baba Naji. He stood silently, his eyes warm. "You've done what few can," he said softly. "You gave your blessing to others. You risked your life for strangers. The balance is complete." Amara's lips trembled. "Will I live?" He smiled. "You've already begun to live. In every life you touched." She reached out, but he was already fading. "Thank you," she whispered, and as he disappeared into the soft morning light, peace filled the room like sunlight breaking after rain. Days passed. Amara recovered slowly. The shelter was rebuilt, larger and stronger than before. Donations poured in from around the world. She visited the site one last time before reopening it, placing the gold coin in the foundation stone. "This belongs here," she said quietly. "May it remind the world that blessings come with purpose." Her children stood beside her, smiling, and somewhere in the wind, she heard his voice one final time. "The seed of greatness blossoms in pain." Amara smiled. "Yes, but it grows in love." The grand reopening of the Hope Shelter was unlike anything Lagos had ever seen. Cameras flashed from every corner, journalists filled the courtyard, and dignitaries from across Africa and the U.S. gathered to witness the miracle reborn from ashes. The air was electric, filled with music, laughter, and the scent of roasted corn and jollof rice being served to guests. Children danced barefoot under the sun, their laughter echoing like a song of triumph. At the center of it all stood Amara Johnson, dressed in a flowing gold and white gown that shimmered in the light. Her hair was tied back elegantly, her face radiant, her scars faint reminders of a battle she had survived. And won. "Ladies and gentlemen," said the event's host through the microphone, "please rise to welcome the woman whose story has inspired millions across the world, the founder of the Hope Shelter, Mrs. Amara Johnson." The crowd erupted in applause. As she walked to the stage, Amara felt her chest tighten, not with fear, but gratitude. A year ago, she'd stood in the rain with nothing. Today, she stood before thousands with everything that mattered. She approached the microphone and took a deep breath. "Thank you," she began softly. "A year ago, I was invisible. The world looked away when I cried, but even in that darkness, something inside me whispered, 'Keep going.'" The audience went silent, every ear attentive. I was thrown out, humiliated, betrayed, but I learned something powerful. When life breaks you, it's not the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of who you were meant to become. The crowd murmured approvingly. Cameras zoomed in on her face, calm, glowing, resolute. "I forgave those who hurt me," she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "Not because they deserved it, but because I refused to let bitterness own me. My pain became my purpose, and my purpose became my strength." She smiled through tears. "So to every woman watching this, to every man who's ever been told you're nothing, remember me. Remember that miracles still happen, but sometimes you are the miracle." The audience rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Even the journalists who came to criticize her stood clapping with tears in their eyes. But amid the clapping and cheering, Amara noticed something at the far end of the courtyard. A tall figure in white, standing under the old mango tree near the gate. He wasn't clapping. He was simply watching her. Baba Naji. Later that night, long after the ceremony ended, Amara returned to the now quiet compound. The guests were gone, her children asleep, the lights dimmed. She walked to the mango tree where she'd seen him standing. The moonlight bathed the ground in silver. She whispered into the night, "I know you're here." And there he was, appearing slowly, his form shimmering like mist. Amara smiled faintly. "You kept your promise. You came back." He nodded, his eyes kind. "You called with your heart, not your voice." She stepped closer. "Why me? There are millions of people who suffer every day. Why choose me?" The old man's eyes gleamed. "Because you gave when you had nothing. That single act, sharing your last meal with a beggar, changed the path of your life. Compassion opened your destiny." Amara frowned. "So that beggar," he smiled, "was me." Her eyes widened. "You were the beggar?" He nodded. "I came to you as one who needed help, to see the truth in your heart, and you passed the test long before the storm ever came." Tears filled Amara's eyes. "I thought my life fell apart because I wasn't strong enough." "No," he said gently. "It fell apart because it was time to rebuild it stronger." He looked toward the shelter, where faint laughter echoed from the dormitories. "The world now knows your name, but what matters most is that the heavens know your heart." Amara clasped her hands. Will I ever see you again? He smiled warmly. Not in this form, but whenever you show kindness, I will be there. A soft breeze rustled the mango leaves, carrying his words like a melody. Then, as before, he faded into the air, his presence dissolving into moonlight. Amara stood for a long time, letting the night wrap around her like a blanket of peace. In the weeks that followed, Amara's life blossomed beyond imagination. She expanded the Hope Shelter into multiple branches across West Africa. The foundation partnered with international organizations. Her story was turned into a documentary that premiered in New York, where she was honored with an award for humanitarian excellence. But despite all the fame, Amara remained humble. She still visited the old bus stop every month, the same one where her life had changed. She would sit on the rusted bench, pray quietly, and give food to anyone who came begging. Sometimes she thought she saw a shadow sitting beside her, smiling. But when she turned, there was only the wind. One day, years later, when her children were grown and successful, Amara sat on her veranda, gazing at the sunset over the lagoon. She was older now, her hair streaked with gray, her body slower, but her eyes still carried the same fire. Nina, now a young woman, approached her. Mama, people still tell your story everywhere. Some say it's a miracle, some say it's magic. What do you think it was? Amara smiled softly. It was mercy. Mercy? Nina repeated. Yes, she said. When the world turns its back on you, mercy steps in. It may come as a stranger, an old man, or even a storm, but it always finds you if your heart is pure. Nina nodded slowly, smiling. You always speak in parables, Mama. Amara chuckled. Maybe because my life became one. They sat together watching the sun sink into the horizon, the sky painted in shades of gold and crimson. And as the wind whispered through the trees, Amara closed her eyes and heard his voice one last time, faint, distant, peaceful. The seed of greatness blossoms in pain, but it lives forever in love. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but this time it wasn't from sorrow, it was from gratitude. 3 months later, news headlines spread across Africa and beyond. Amara Johnson, founder of the Hope Shelter, passes away peacefully in her sleep. People mourned, but they also celebrated. Churches, schools, and villages across Nigeria held candlelight vigils. Thousands of children she had once rescued released white balloons into the sky. And in every shelter she built, a plaque was mounted at the entrance. It read, "In memory of Amara Johnson, the woman who turned pain into purpose and built hope from nothing." Below the inscription was her favorite quote, "Mercy is the greatest miracle." That night, as the world remembered her, a faint figure was seen standing under the mango tree at the Hope Shelter, an old man in a flowing robe, smiling proudly. He whispered to the wind, "She learned." Then he turned, walking slowly into the night, disappearing beneath the stars. And in the quiet air, the gold coin embedded in the foundation stone glowed faintly one last time before fading forever. Now, dear viewers watching from around the world, I want to hear from you. If you were in Amara's shoes, abandoned, humiliated, then blessed beyond measure, could you forgive the people who broke you? Would you still choose mercy over revenge? Let's talk in the comments below. Your answers could inspire someone else's healing. And if Amara's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so others can feel this same message of hope, redemption, and divine balance. Remember, sometimes the biggest miracle isn't the money you win, it's the heart you find.